C9 paid me to coach these two teams to win their $2,500 tournament, and we won. This is how it happened. What's up guys, it's royalG. We're headed into our second episode of this 3-part series, and in this video, I'll be taking you guys through how I coached and worked with these two teams through their matches leading up to playoffs. Some of you guys may have seen the last episode that talked a bit about how I ended up coaching for C9 Training Grounds in the first place and the first week of the league. If you haven't, I recommend giving it a watch. But to quickly give context, I joined as a guest coach for C9 Training Grounds to coach two teams. My goal is to coach them and guide them throughout 7 weeks of matches and practices, leading up to playoffs where these two teams compete with other teams to win in a tournament with a prize pool of $2,500. Since we have a lot to cover, let's jump right into the action. So week 2 comes with some changes to how we'll approach the rest of the league. From this week on, Fridays and Saturdays are now match days, and since we have 3 days together every week, that means we only practice on Wednesdays. This is also part of the reason why I stress the fundamentals so much in the beginning, because a lot of their improvement will have to be done separately as a team or as individuals. This is something I actually wanted to expand on for everyone's sake. I think people often have this misconception that coaching is supposed to make you a better player suddenly, but that's really not the case. As a coach, your job isn't to make someone a great player, but to lead them down the path to becoming a great player. Whether they're willing to walk this path or to turn away is ultimately up to them. A good coach won't fix a player who isn't willing to learn, but he can definitely transform an already passionate player into something greater. So if you're a player looking to improve, you need to realize that improvement comes from within. And if you guys want to see what coaching can do for you, I just wanted to remind everyone that you can use my code royalG to gain access to 1 free month of coaching from the Training Grounds Discord. Another thing to mention is that this code also gets you $10 off any purchases on the website, as well as for the Performance League, which closes its registration on the 19th. Anyways, let's get back to topic. Because matches were about to start, I felt like it was better for us to get a map pool started, and had my teams play some scrims on Haven. Of course, I also gave them some ideas on game plans and assigned one to each team. For example, one team would play passively while the other would rush sites, or play to set up lurks, and etc. This is for 2 reasons. First, scrims need to have a goal in mind or else it won't be productive. And the second is to make it so that results aren't as important rather than getting in the practice, and also for players to get a better idea of how teams actually play together. But during the scrims, it was becoming more and more apparent that one team was struggling to get going, Nurikabe. While the Royals were more relaxed and just played their game, Nurikabe were trying to do too much right off the bat, and were calling strats that were complicated and unpracticed. That, along with the fact that they've already argued a little bit, ended up turning to a bigger argument that led to more mediation from my side, that eventually led to another talk with the players.
It's sure it's 1-8 in a practice game. It's like our first real one with a team together. It's gonna go bad. It's fine. We gotta relax, listen to the coach saying. Like, try to figure out a setup. Even if it's simple, we need to find a setup and just do it. Even if it's not going to work, let's try to get one to work so we can get a baseline.
Holding along with my guardian.
No, like holding he's here to make us get better, like to help us get better. He's not going to just lie to your face and say just shit to say shit. Like,
well,
we're all here to get better.
Bad then. Jeez.
No, it's okay. No, relax. The thing is we're not mad at you for it at all. That's what we're trying to say.
Because I wanted to maintain fairness of time for each team, I tried to make sure that I didn't spend too much time mediating arguments and tried to keep practice going. But by the end of the night, I knew that some players on Nurikabe would definitely have conflicts again. My only hope is that it won't become a recurring problem, but as you'll see later on, it defined their league. For match days, every team plays 2 matches against other teams in the league in a sort of round-robin situation. This is meant to not only create the seeding for the tournament at the end of the league, but also serve as valuable practice in a more realistic situation. Heading into the first matches, I was nervous because I had no idea how prepared they would be and how good the other teams might be. Since I can't watch both teams play at the same time, I opted for the approach of watching one team on each day. The first day was the Royals.
One more cat, one more. Nice. Oh man. Last one's tree. Hold in your CT, Killjoy. Hold in your CT, Killjoy. Nice.
I'll be honest, I think the Royals started off already in a really good spot. They played more intuitively, focused more on individual skill, and seemed to be quite mature. The practice games reflected a lot on how they would likely do heading into the league, and I felt like if any of the 2 teams would start off with a 2-0 performance, it would be them. Of course, I was hoping for both teams to go 2-0. Anyways, Royals delivered. During the match, I noted down some major weaknesses I saw. In my eyes, the Royals had a few key issues, which was a lack of communication and tendency to leave gaps as a team. Both stemmed from lack of experience and individualistic play, but since this was more simple to fix, I felt like it wouldn't be a major issue. Throughout the weeks, they would naturally improve as they practiced. On the flip side, Nurikabe didn't start out as strong, unfortunately losing both of their matches. Although they lost, it seemed like they learned a lot throughout the game and also had a chance to get to know each other a bit more. It seemed like no one was really frustrated at each other and vibes were improving. Since I didn't get to see how the matches went, we just talked about some basic things and prepared for the next day. The second day of matches comes along and this time I focused on the Nurikabe side. Since they started off a bit slow with the 0-2, I tried to have them focus less on the outcome and more on how they would try to play together. It seemed to work, because they played amazingly in the first game, with some very well coordinated retakes on ascent.
I'm nading main. One health, jet health.
Wait all.
You guys want to start defusing.
Watch out. Get up there. Halfway.
Don't worry, I'll stall.
Mollying.
Yeah, just stick. Perfect.
Unfortunately, they couldn't close out the second game, although it was pretty close. Regardless, they were definitely seeing progress despite the slow start, and my hopes are high. Two major weaknesses I recognized with the Nurikabe side was their tendency to overcomplicate the situation, and also their mechanical skill. Even in situations where a simple peek or trade would work, Nurikabe would try too hard to create some on-the-fly strategy that often confused themselves more than the enemy. It also felt like some players on the team didn't take my advice on mechanics seriously. Even in winning situations, players were losing individual fights, which then affected the round outcome negatively. Without the proper awareness, teams could make the assumption that the strategy was wrong, when in reality, it might have been chalked up to a whiffed shot or a poorly thrown piece of utility. In my eyes, the simple answer is often the best answer. Week 3 came along, and now that the ball was officially rolling, practicing from here on out would be mostly building a map pool and playing practice matches due to limited time. But of course, there's still some fundamentals that players need to know. For this week, I taught everyone how to jump peek because safe information gathering is super important. After that, we headed into practice matches where it became apparent again that Nurikabe was struggling. Frustration was once again setting in, and that was a little concerning.
Or unless she has one that has off.
Why are I just solo swinging?
Right there, I'm stuck.
Here. Sailor play, just play backside on B. Got the marker player up. And saving.
Let's walk up and hold across. I'm going along there. Because one usually does like.
But apart from that, everything went smoothly. At least in comparison to match day.
I'm holding. One's jail.
Yeah.
What is that? She's literally dead on my screen!
I'm grabbing Lord.
That trade.
My space barring time on this fucking ping.
I'm swinging him.
I got him.
Backside.
Wall's going down now.
I'm going back yellow.
Get to sleep.
It's more than just thinking they're IGL, it's also they're like not
Oh my god, I'm so bad. 140.
He's not dead.
140 up.
Jeff's one.
Fighting
Jeff's
one.
one, Chambers one.
Hey, try. That's on me. I had them both.
How am I the one that dies from flank there? I'm on yellow. And I'm the one
And
that
No,
literally-
let's time out. First of all, what's your actual game plan? Because I don't think anyone believes in this game plan, and I don't see anyone trying to play that way. Everyone's just saying back up once when you actually took site, right? Like, you guys aren't even like trying to push through. I think Pyrogi was the only one who actually like played around the game plan, but even then, right? If you guys want to have a game plan, it's not some title you kind of just like put on your wall and like just hope it works. Like,
Yeah.
you guys have to believe in the actual plan, go for it together. If you don't want to do that, then you guys are not gonna, you're not gonna succeed in like anything, because you guys aren't gonna be able to find the opportunities that you're used to finding. As you can see, Nurikabe were having some serious internal issues stemming from frustration and lack of team chemistry. Although it's easy to blame a single individual for the cause, I felt like there was a lot more that was under the surface. A mismatch in expectations, a lack of leadership, mismatched passions and perspectives, and a lack of trust in me as a coach. Needless to say, this marked the point where I decided that my focus for Nurikabe by the end of the league wasn't for them to win the trophy, but to help the players learn to settle differences and build a better long term. So either way, like, I don't want to like keep on pushing this whole thing, and I think it's something that you guys might want to talk about yourselves. You know, maybe through like just a team chat, like have a serious conversation about it. I think everyone has to like lay their heart on the table, like no disrespects to each other, right? Try to remain as try to remain as cordial as possible, of course, while still, you know, venting out, you know, things that you think is not going right. And also, I mean, before you do all this, make sure everyone, like, I want everyone to tell each other one thing they like about the other person. So
I agree with that. I
yeah,
love that.
So if you guys are gonna have this conversation, like I don't want to sit into this like thing and kind of mediate the whole conversation, but you know, I think that's like I think the first step to opening up to each other is to at least look for the good side. I think right now, you know, I think everyone's kind of focused on looking at the bad side of each other, and it's natural because you guys are losing and things aren't working out. You think something needs to change. You know, I think a lot of people tend to run into a situation where they start thinking about what's going on around them and not to themselves. And it might be true that other people are also messing up, but you know, focus on yourself first. Meanwhile, Royals went 1-1 on the first day, but bounced back on day 2, securing a 2-0. Royals were performing amazingly as a team, and their performance showed me that they were already growing at an astonishing pace. Week 4 came along, and as I previously mentioned, practice was now mainly guided scrims and small bits of teaching from my side. This time around, both teams decided on practicing Pearl. So at the start of practice, I explained how a team comes up with a map philosophy and builds a game plan. The scrims came after, and as usual, Royals dominated while Nirakabe were still resolving their internal conflicts. The road to recovery was long for the Nirakabe team, but I had to give massive props for them for taking a big step forward, because when match day came, they showed a completely different look.
They're gonna flash you.
I'm holding.
I have your shoes.
One long.
Long intro, long intro.
Nice, nice.
One.
Tap, we're good.
Taking their own. Late eye.
Oh, damn, kill
That's
us,
on
guys.
site. That's on default.
Oh, okay, nice. Oh my, oh, valid!
Short.
I'm flashed.
Smoke pulling.
Valid the king.
Okay, play together.
One on site.
Default.
Oh, oh my god, wait, these guys are owning. Wait, what the
Yeah.
heck?
Tap bud out. One more out. Nice.
GG, boy.
Hey, good job, guys. Good job. Well done.
Oh, what the fuck is that?
Up dead.
Why is he running away? This guy running away from his own
Running
killjoy,
right to
almost
outside.
like he was about to get detained. Nirakabe got their first 2-0, and they were really starting to come together as a team. Although they were by no means perfect, I could tell that the players were all giving their 110% to move forward. It was great to see the effort, and even though the wins don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, anything that helped them feel rewarded for their efforts was a welcome sight to see. Royals, on the other hand, had a really weird situation, because they actually performed out of their mind in the first game by 13-0ing their opposition, only to lose the second game. From what I heard, they had some server issues and Jolty was lagging like crazy, but a loss is a loss, nothing to worry about. That is, until the next day when they took a beating and ended up 0-2. All things considered, they were playing with a sub, and unfortunately the sub was significantly lower ranked than the original player, which resulted in a pretty uneven match against arguably one of the other top performers in the league. I had a talk with the players afterwards to soften the blow, but I knew they were a bit shaken and frustrated due to the results. On the other hand, Nirakabe went 0-2 as well, which led to some frustrations once again, but they handled it together and nothing major came out of it. I think the 2-0 the day before showed them the light at the end of the tunnel, and now they were more committed than ever. Week 5 came along with the usual routine, and this was actually the final week of matches before playoffs would begin. Practice was cancelled due to a lot of scheduling conflicts, and although that wasn't the most ideal, I felt like both teams had a good trajectory and were doing their own work on the side. Hearing about Nirakabe's situation, Strawberry hopped in to talk with them and gave some advice and pointers, while I also had a talk with Derizzle, who was the IGL for the Royals. Entering the matches, Royals had to find a sub, but since we couldn't find one on the days leading up, I actually had someone in my chat sub for us who was the same rank as a player who couldn't make it. Although he was shy and never played with a team before, he did very well and the Royals were back on track to winning their games. If you're watching this, thanks for helping out, Daniel. Nirakabe, on the other hand, took a complete 180 as a team, and I mean this in the most positive way possible. Although they lost their match, what I witnessed from them was nothing short of a complete miracle.
They had the most to improve on overall across everything. I guarantee you.
Yeah, we
And
came
we've done a lot of that.
We came into this all on the wrong roles, basically. So I
We're coming
love the
together.
progress we're making.
We're coming together.
Mhm.
That's the
Incredible.
thing. Yeah.
You guys went from having the most issues with conflict to having the least issues. So I am shocked joining this chat, seeing you guys today from what I saw 2 weeks ago. Black and white.
Heading into the final day of matches, Royals pulled off their signature 2-0 performance in convincing fashion, while Nirakabe went 1-for-1 to close things off. I was extremely proud of how both teams grew. Nirakabe went above and beyond to repair a team situation that in most cases would result in immediate disbandment, and ended up much stronger and more mature not only as a team, but as players as well. And while Royals didn't really have many issues, they took my teachings to heart and grew at an astonishing rate, while also quickly bouncing back from setbacks to prove their ability to stand above the competition. But playoffs were right around the corner, and it was anyone's game. It was time to prove ourselves in the tournament.